All right, we're live.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Everybody please stand. With flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Thank you. Welcome to the January 19th regular board meeting. Ms. Conrad, will you please take roll call?
Mr. Dix.
Here.
Mrs. Fensko. Here. Mr. Hammerschmidt.
Here.
Mr. Kirkwood.
Here.
Mr. Coop. Is he on the line?
He's at a basketball game.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Mr. Nimmo.
Here.
Mr. Parker.
Here.
Mr. Redfoot.
Here.
He's actually trying. On his way back.
Oh, he's there now? I didn't know if
He's on his way back.
he was, or I didn't know, because I know there's a
That's
basketball
why.
game.
Item number D, recognition of guests. Thank you everyone for coming. Item E, recognition of meetings. December 1st, 2021, reorganization meeting from 6:45 PM to 7:04 PM. December 1st, 2021, regular session, 7:05 PM to 8:12 PM. Executive session from 8:13 to 8:35 PM. And then our regular board meeting from 8:36 PM to 8:38 PM. On January 5th, 2022, executive session from,
That's supposed to be 6:05.
I think it's
Sorry.
6:05 to 6:59 PM, followed by a work session at 7:03 to 8:13 PM. Item number 2, presentations. Mr. Rich, Pride Promise.
Yes. So you are the pride and pride. January through PSBA School Board Recognition Month. I know we have some elder statesmen here who may have been recognized previously, but we do have some new board members, including Mr. Kuth. So, hey, congratulations on being the Pride and Promise Award winner, as well as the rest of the board. So it is your month, and congratulations and thank you for your service. And I want to let you know that I have recommended a 100% pay increase in the budget for next year. So if you take your $0.00 and you multiply that by 100, no, Justin, that doesn't mean you're getting 100. It means you're getting 0.
All right, item number 2. We have Mr. Bruce Lawrence with the firm of Yale Power and Bell Associates for our audit report.
All right, we got it. So everybody does have the summary that I'm going to go through. We did just meet the finance committee earlier, so I'm going to be a little bit more brief, have more in-depth discussion. And excuse me, instead of going through the whole thick audit document, because it is such a thick document, I have the summary that we typically like to go through as we present to school boards. It's more of a tool to kind of presentation and summarize all the information that's in the financial statement. You can't possibly put all the information from a 60+ page financial statement in 2 pages, but we do our best to do that. So I like to refer to as the ESPN highlights of the audit. Just a couple items to start off with. The opinion on the audit this year was an unmodified opinion. I'm starting here. Yeah, starting here. Does anybody have this?
They should all have it.
Yeah, so the opinion on the financial statements was an unmodified or clean audit opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can give on a set of financial statements. Material weaknesses, there were none noted. Other comments, we did have a couple of management comments that we discussed at the finance committee meeting. They were pretty minor. They did not raise to the level of material weakness. They've already been discussed, so we can just move past those. Significant estimates included in the financial statements would be the collectability of earned income taxes receivable, that's the estimate. The lives of fixed assets are depreciated over an estimated useful life of asset, as well as the net pension and OPEB liabilities. So a couple important disclosures to point out. There's note I is the pension plan, note J is the OPEB plan for post-employment retirement benefits. There were no significant difficulties in dealing with management and conducting the audit, as well as no disagreements. We also provided a management rep letter that will need to be signed and returned, kind of wrap up the audit. There were a few adjusting entries. Those will be provided to management as well, so they can post them through the books. Turning into the numbers. So we'll get into this page here. This is a little two-page summary. The highlights of the audit. So as I stated in the finance committee meeting, this is just a summary of most important items to take out, we'll take away from the audit. It's set up so there's a report page in the first column. That's the item in the audited document where you would find the information I talked about. So if you were going to look at it later, you could refer to that page. There's an item I'm going to discuss as well as some comments in the next column over. And then there's an amount for 2021 and 2020, a change between the 2 years. Another thing I like about this, we use this as an analytical tool to wrap up our audit. And whereas the audit itself just shows 1 year, this is compared. So jumping into the summary here. Page number 1 is the audit report. We already talked about that. It was a clean or unmodified audit opinion, the highest level of assurance we can give on the financial statements. Getting into the general fund, which is the most significant and largest fund of the school district. Total assets as of 6/30/21 were $10,795,000. That's down about $239,000. Really more just timing differences with some of your assets. Cash and investments were down about a significant amount. I can't remember exactly, about $500,000. But there was an increase in accounts receivable due to mainly the intergovernmental receivables up. That's subsidies that are receivable, mainly federal subsidies, and as well as the intergovernmental or the interfund receivable between the cafeteria and the general is up about $114,000 or $149,000 rather. Total liabilities were $2,317,000. That's down about $152,000. Prior year, you had an accounts payable at the end of the year for your health insurance of $160,000. This past year, that was paid in June, so it was not in your accounts payable. So a little bit of timing difference there. The deferred inflows of resources is $218,000 compared to $235,000. And that basically are the taxes receivable that are beyond the 60-day collection window. Anything within 60 days you recognize as revenue. Anything past 60 days is deferred and offsets taxes receivable in the assets of the balance sheet. Total fund balance, which is the difference between your liabilities and your assets, was $8,260,000. That's broken down into a few different buckets. There's the non-spendable portion of $46, which we discussed earlier was just a small prepaid expense for the next fiscal year that was paid in June. There was no restricted fund balance at the end of 2021. Assigned fund balance was $7,948,000. That consists of some different buckets: capital projects, future retirement, OPEB, and an amount put aside for next year's budget. The unassigned or residual portion is $312,000. That's what makes up the total fund balance of $8,260,000. So that's the general fund balance sheet. Getting into the revenues and expenses in the general fund, found on page 15. Total revenues were $19,220,000. That's up about $590,000 from the prior fiscal year. The big ticket item there is your federal subsidies was up. It went from $339,000 to $865,000. That's a $526,000 increase. That's the CARES Act money you guys received yesterday. So as with most schools that we audit quite a few schools, and all of them received obviously a lot of CARES Act funding, which did help cover expenses during the fiscal year. The other thing that did is it put you over $750,000 in federal expenditures, which kicked you into needing a single audit. Single audit is a more in-depth audit just of your federal expenditures. We'll talk about that. Global sources were $6,187,000, pretty consistent with the prior year. Of that amount, property taxes were $4,677,000. The prior year property taxes were $4,620,000. So you can see, pretty consistent. State sources were $12,161,000. That's an increase of $82,000 from the prior year. That's mainly the Social Security subsidy reimbursement that is slightly higher. Other financing sources, $7,500 was the sale of capital asset, and that's what gets us a total general fund revenues of $19,200,000. Budgeted revenues were $18,426,000. So you were quite a bit, you were $1 million over budget revenues, but a lot of it has to do with the top project. A lot of that wasn't necessarily known. Total expenditures were $19,290,000, almost exactly. You were from $3,000 the prior year, which when you're talking $19 million, that's pretty precise. The excess of revenues over expenditures, actually in this case under, was a deficit of $70,000. Prior year was a deficit of $663,000. So a better year than. Any questions on the general? Gonna flip the page and go to the capital projects fund. Capital projects fund, not a lot of activity going on there in the last couple of years. Total assets were $41,000 at the end of the fiscal year compared to $48,000 prior fiscal year. No liabilities, no payables at the end of the year. Total fund balance was $41,417. Again, that is all restricted for capital projects. The proprietary fund, which is the food service fund, it's the only proprietary fund we have, as most schools. The net income from the proprietary fund was a positive $23,000. Prior year was a negative $101,000. The big reason for the difference there was with the participation in the SSO program, the free breakfast and lunches throughout the whole year, large increase in their federal subsidies. That really was a game changer for all the schools that we work with as well. Usually the cafeteria funds tend to struggle because of those federal subsidies with the free lunches. Got surplus. Of that $23,000, $13,665 is attributable to depreciation for the year, so non-cash expense. That's it for the fund statements. The fund statements are done as we meant to talk about in the finance committee on the modified accrual basis of accounting. So within government financial statements, they have two sets of financial statements. There's the fund statements, then we go to the government-wide statement. That's where we take all of your information and go to a full basis as we count in the sector. So on the fund statements, we take your capital assets, or anything you construct or purchase, it's expensed the year you buy it. When the government-wide financial statements we put on your balance sheet, depreciate over its estimated useful life. Another big difference is long-term debt payments are expensed on the fund statements when you make them. On the government-wide, it's put on the balance sheet, you just reduce the debt by the principal payments each year. A couple other big items would be the bond or the debt, or for beyond the debt would be the OPEB, and the pension liabilities. We'll discuss those as well. So the amount invested in fixed assets as of 6/30/21 was $15,499,936. That's a decrease of $829,000. One major addition was the elementary gym heating and ventilation units of about $53,000, and there was a disposal of bus for about $80,000. That was the cost of the bus. Other than that, depreciation was $882,000 for the year. So that's why the decrease in their fixed assets from 2020 to 2020. Depreciation exceeded additions. Bonds payable were $7,429,000. That's a decrease of $1 million. No new debt for the year. That's just the payments being made in accordance with the debt. Getting into the OPEB and the net pension liability, these are the, as I call them, the more pie in the sky numbers. These are liabilities that are really very long term. The pension liability is $29,149,000. Prior year was $27 million. That's really, that number is actually, Peasers is responsible for that liability. But the reason you have to book that came out a few years ago in the government accounting standards that schools and municipalities had to show that as their liability. The only way you would be responsible for paying that would be if the state system of Peasers went under, which, as we talked about in the finance committee, that would be, we have a lot more problems than just worrying about the retirement system. But the takeaway from that is that that's why your contribution rate for the retirement system is so high. It's gone up significantly over the last 10, 15, 20 years. I think we discussed, was it 30, 35?
Versus 2%.
It's a few more years before it's.
It's, yeah, give it a little ways to go.
I'm not swallowed of it.
I have a question. Since they've done away with the full funding of new hires, that's probably gonna delay our ability to defund to slope it down, should you say, because new hires aren't.
They're not contributing.
They're not
Right.
contributing, right? Yeah, we had a very good, long discussion about that at the finance committee. Yeah, I mean, it's really a difficult situation. As big as that number is, if you were to look at some of the schools around Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, you'd be adding a couple of digits to that.
Right, but I think those tables were made under the assumption we were gonna stick with the 7.5 contribution.
Your 7.5 contribution.
Pretty strong. So with this, I don't think with the new hires, as more people get out, it's gonna be underfunded. I shudder when we have that conversation come out of PISA. And they're like,
And the other thing to point out too, that number is actually dated by a year because under the GASB, that information for a current year would be available so long to put together. So that's actually the balance at the end of the 6th. Same with the OPEB liability, which is also actuarially determined. And kind of the other thing about those two liabilities, they're not liabilities that if you, as of June 30, 2021, you have to come up with that money. That's paid over the years of the retirees. So, but yeah, that's a very good point that you made. That liability is not going away anywhere. That's pretty much it for the liability side. We get into a couple other items. The tax millage was 14.176. That did not change because 21. Then we could talk about the single audit. So because you guys didn't spend over $750,000 in federal rules, you needed to have a single audit, as I mentioned earlier. So your total federal awards for the year were $1,331,000. The total $750 triggers the single audit, triggers the need for it. On page 62 of the audit report on the federal awards was a clean opinion, which is, again, it's a clean, highest level assurance we can give over your management of the federal money. I think that's just as important as the audit opinion itself, because usually when you make the newspaper, it's for mismanagement of federal awards, so you don't want to have any issues there. The other thing is we had no audit findings or question costs to report on your schedule of federal. The programs that we audited were the breakfast and lunch program and education stabilization. That's pretty much a very brief, quick summary of the audit. Do you have any questions or comments or concerns from me?
No.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having us. Appreciate working with you guys. Jen did a really great job. Makes it go really smoothly. If you don't have questions now, if you have them later, you can always contact me in my office or Thank you. Send me an email. Send Jordan an email.
Moving on, we'll go to item number C, mission profile, which changes the high school course description, graduation.
All right, good evening, everyone. Minimal changes this year as to compared to years past. But if you could, manuals should be there in front of you guys. If you could just check out page 4. The college within the high school. We are going to add one course under the University of Pittsburgh where we're applying for its introduction to broadcasting. Other than that, we are working with BC3. They have a new program that they're running on the Early Pioneers program. So as more of that information comes in, we will get that added if we feel it would benefit our students. Other than that, it's just been a lot of the wording, trying to be consistent with some of the classes. We had introduction to, introductory, all of these different terms. So we went with what the colleges typically use. So you'll see everything is now introduction to with all of the CHS. Also on page 7, we did update a lot of our NCAA eligibility center information. Rather than put a 3-page list of all the classes that we have, we simply put the link there. We'll put that on the website. That way, anybody who's interested in our NCAA accredited classes can simply click the hyperlink and go to all of those courses. The biggest change for this year would be on page 33. The math department is suggesting a change in the sequence. So from Algebra 1, we currently do Algebra 1, Algebra 2 to Geometry. They are suggesting an Algebra 1 to Geometry, then to Algebra 2. So that would be the largest change. For as long as I can remember, for the last 10 to 11 years, it has been the way, the Algebra 1 to 2 to Geometry. So we're suggesting a change.
Mr. McGee gives me his look. That's because when dinosaurs roamed the earth, ninth graders took algebra 1, 10th graders took geometry, 11th graders took algebra 2. So we then went to algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry. Mr. French, would you mind explaining why we went to the previous current track and why we want to go back relative to the age of the learner?
So what we're seeing is, again, we have a group of students who are being accelerated in seventh grade, taking algebra 1, taking algebra 2 in 8th grade. Then you have another group of students being accelerated algebra 1 in 8th grade, algebra 2 in 9th grade.
So for proportions, it's typically one class of 7th graders and then 2 classes of 8th. Correct. So by the time you're in 9th grade, when we used to take algebra, there's almost nobody left. There's a small group of 9th graders. So on track, if you will, would be 8th graders and algebra. That's similar to Sharp's.
We're, I would say, a very high propensity is taking the Keystones in 9th grade. It's not very efficient. I think we're gonna do something. We either have like the ultra academic path, which is algebra 2 in 8th grade, and then we have just the standard math 8, which is a pre-algebra, and then they take their Keystone trigger course in 9th grade.
So the logic was they were getting too far away from the math.
Correct. So when you look at ACT, SAT, for the majority of the math on ACT, SAT are your algebra 1 skills. So when you're 2 or 3 years removed from those skills and you're in the different levels of math, they don't have the refresher of the background to go in and get that. So you're looking at a very small window for kids. Again, beginning of pre-calc, they say usually the first 9 weeks of pre-calc is the best time to take your ACT, SAT, because there's a large review of algebra 1, algebra 2. Or if you were to change that math cycle into which your 9th graders and 10th graders are in that algebra 2 world, they're going to have that refresher to take that beginning of the year test to hopefully score better on the ACT, SAT. So it's moving it, again, like Mr. Rich said, in the past, prior to, we changed math when we went to the PSSA 11th grade test. Everybody changed their math when we went to PSSA 11th grade. We went away from that, went to the Keystones. Nobody ever changed their math delineation back. So we're looking at changing our math delineation to help our students have success on those high state tests later on in their high school career. Have the background.
So we changed it to fit a state mandated test. Now that the test doesn't exist, we're putting it back to the way it should.
We think back the way it makes more sense for students to have better success. Secondary.
And another one of the largest changes, that the math will be implemented next year. So the 22-23 school year. This suggestion would be for the following school year to implement world cultures as the 9th grade social studies. Currently, we do civics and economics. So this coming year, we will do 8th grade and 9th grade. We'll all take civics.
What page are you on?
I'm sorry, page 39.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
yeah.
39 and 40. So we currently do civics and economics in 9th grade. The suggestion is to move that to an 8th grade social studies and then place in world cultures. You will see the description for world cultures and civics there. We were able to already get all of those NCAA approved. Other than that, if you look at, we did change some of the wording for United States History 11 and United States History 10. We changed that to United States History 1877 to present, and then United States History 2, 1876. We were hindered a little bit with the old database in terms of how many characters we could have in the transcript. Everybody was always asking, what is U.S. History 10? What is U.S. History 11? So now we can be just a little bit more specific. So everybody in 8th and 9th grade next year would be taking civics. And then the following year, 8th grade would be civics, 9th grade would then be world cultures. Honors civics and economics, we typically offer one section that has those students that really, really, really enjoy social studies and accelerate in that. We do have one honor section. There will not be an 8th grade honor section.
Yeah.
That will simply be for 9th grade. Any questions? That's all I have.
I do have one question. With Santini retired, are her classes still in this, or have we decided?
So what we did with Mrs. Santini was we loaded her up the first semester with computer apps. So I want to say we offered 6 or 7 sections of those classes. We started to transition a few of her accounting classes over to Mrs. Skirvitz. Unfortunately, we don't have any space for computer apps second semester. So we'll have to pick up with those courses next year. But we were able to make it work. We shifted over her partial all to Mrs. Skirvitz.
I think to clarify, for Mr. Redfoot, if Mrs. Santini is not replaced as either a half-time or a full-time teacher, what impact will that have on the business office?
It would be very difficult to offer any business offerings because then we would have to have the requirement.
Other than what Mrs. Skirvitz. So Mrs. Skirvitz's schedule this year looks like what?
She has accounting 1. We weren't able to implement accounting 2. We did that because there were 2 students that wanted it. Instead of taking a full period of Mrs. Skirvitz, we offered them to take accounting 2 through CalU. They'll be taking that second semester. She has 2 sections of Python programming. She has 2 sections of web design. She has 1 section of graphic design. She has a cyber monitor period to where she oversees quite a few business courses on the LCA, Cyber Academy. And then she has her prep and she has her lunch.
Right, so there will be no computer apps.
Correct. Or there wouldn't be any high-end computer classes
So you put the computer apps and pull somebody else.
or the business offerings.
So lots of balls in the air.
In which accounting was really picking up steam. We were looking at maybe offering 2 sections of one, but we were unable to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, we're good. Item number 3, reports from standing committees, if any.
Just 2 things. The IU4 board meeting is next Wednesday. The IU4 in Grove City. And I'll have a report for the February meeting on that committee. And with PSBA, we did the orientation for the new board members. With the PSBA, and they have received training materials and everything. And that's all going forward. And also we get those daily PSBA reminders. They're always good to take a look at, see what's going on. Going on with PSBA and with changes, education, and what they're advocating for. That's all I have.
Just one about the birth test. We're expanding the welding class. We have going to expand 16 more. We have way more students than we can accommodate. So we're taking one of the old shops. We have an architect going to design for 16 more welding booths. So we'll be able to hopefully meet the demand for that. It's really growing. I mean, why won't you get on there? I mean, Road Tech, you get a certificate here through our program, but it's not the same. You can get several out there. You know, if you know about welding, they get on and on.
AWS.
Yeah, you get the certification.
And it just goes on and on. I mean, if you're enough, you're going to be welding for NASA. You know what I mean? Or TIG weld. But anyway, we're going to be able to accommodate all those that are being left out right now. So that's a good thing.
Do they still have masonry down there?
So we don't have it as a standalone shop, but our carpentry, it's construction trades. So in construction trades, they learn some basic masonry, do some basic concrete work, but nothing to say that I'm a mason. You know, they do some residential electric. Obviously, still in construction trades, the preponderance is still carpentry, but there's not standalone masonry. As a matter of fact, the old shop that we're doing is the masonry shop. When we closed masonry, you had 9 students in 2 sessions total. So 9 students total in 2 sessions.
A lot of them out there, they still.
No, well, that's,
Yeah.
and you know, as you can attest to, I'm not gonna go too long with the tangent here, but the construction trades are underrated. skilled trades are underrated. There are more gainful employment jobs out there than there are gainful employable candidates. If you look, and again, following some of these blogs or whatnot, I think the average age of someone of a machinist in Wisconsin is 59 years old. You know, it's some incredibly late statistic. It's not there. I mean, sure, you know, in your own industry.
In my trade, everybody's got gray hair. There's no young guys hardly out there at all.
No.
And the ones that do,
Fall
don't know
off.
how to read a tape. They get past the big marks and they're lost. It's kind of frustrating.
Yes,
But, yeah, well, I think you need to stress there is good money out now.
absolutely.
With the shortage comes good pay, so.
Yeah, and I've got to say too, whether it's Mark or Matt, whomever at Laurel, I think they do look at our students' post-secondary plans and make recommendations. And let's not forget, even if you're looking at a skilled trade, and because it's hard for a 15-year-old to say, I'm going to leave my school and go to another school. We have the IBEW training facility right in the Shannon Township. You have the steam fitters in Harmony. I don't know if anybody made that field trip. Oh my goodness. You know, if the steam fitters can have a Taj Mahal of steam fitting, that's it. You can go down Robinson Township and on your way to, you know, your shopping in Robinson Towns Center, if you look up to the right, there's this huge brick union hall. It's the International Brotherhood of the Carpenters. And then also, Mark, did you go or did Matt go to the Youngstown Excellence Training Center? We both went. And so we have something 30 minutes away where a young person, not sure what they want to do, got through high school, not sure about college, can go over there. They can start taking skilled trades courses. They can earn certificates. Hey, I like this. It's in partnership with Eastern Gateway Community College. In 2 years, hey, I have an associate's degree. I'm not doing too bad in school. Maybe I want to stay in school. Then they can roll right into Youngstown State for a 4-year degree. I really look at this Excellence Training Center as the future post-secondary ed, traditional college, of which I went to one, as having a shrinking market. And I think that the Excellence Training Center, you might see more of those. Any other comments on that, Mark?
No, I think it's kind of a great idea of what they're doing there. Not only do they get you the ability to earn certificates while you're going through, but they also have a huge job base. So you're getting a job. It's kind of like the old ROTC. You have a job where you work Monday through Friday on the skills you're learning, and then you get your certificates on the weekends to further your education. And generally, a lot of those people they're partnering with pay for your schooling along the way. So you gotta get out of there with almost no debt. And like Len said, you go on and get as many degrees as you want with that company.
You don't have to go to Silver Creek and hope for a scholarship.
One other thing, we've brought up down there that school boards, we wanted to invite everybody to have a meeting down there, take a tour. I mean, the VOTEC still has a stigma, I think, from Kodak. When I was young, I don't know if any of you went through that place, but it is amazing. And the upkeep of that building is beyond, for the kind of kids, you know, we get the kids like I would go there. And the building is top. I mean, it's beautiful building yet. And it's, how old is it?
Well, it's over 50 years old. Don't forget they choose to go there. So in March, the Wilmington School Board and the Elwood City School Board are having one of their 2 meetings at the Career Center.
So that's
If-
something
if
we'd
this
like to
board
do that.
would make that decision, here's what we can do for you. Okay? The first thing that we'll do is give you a tour. The second thing that we'll do is restaurant trades, cook you a meal. And then we'll host your meeting, and we have technological capabilities and whatnot. So, you know, if this is something that the board would like to see, we'd be happy to facilitate.
And I think if we did it in the winter months, people have a little more time in the winter than,
Sure.
so, I don't know.
So we can just.
I think you'd enjoy it. Yeah. Sure.
Do we have any additional administrator or supervisor?
No, they were given last week at the work session. Academic admin is here for any follow-up.
Comments and questions from the floor relative to the agenda items? Okay. Approval of minutes. Approval of minutes from December 1st, 2021, recognition of minutes, meetings of the board. Can I add a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cook, second by Mr. Redcliffe. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item B, approval of minutes from December 1st, 2021, regular board meeting. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Parker, second by Mr. Hayes. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item number 7, approval of treasurer's report, Mr. Hammersmith.
It is the recommendation of the superintendent of the board to approve the treasurer's report for the general fund as of December 31st, 2021, as outlined below. I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hammersmith, second by Mr. Kirkwood. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
It is the recommendation of the superintendent for the board to approve the tax investment report for December 2021. Put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hammersmith, second by Mr. Dix. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item C.
Put a motion, I make a motion to approve of the treasurer's report.
Second.
Those are just information. Policy.
Okay. All right, we can skip.
Yeah, we can skip C, it's item 8. Approval of bill listings.
All right, sorry. It is the recommendation of the superintendent of the board to approve general fund bill listing for January 19th, 2022, in the amount of $46,230.79 in checks and payments written manually the month of December 2021, in the amount of $1,468,442.22, a total of $1,514,673.01. I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hammersmith, second by Mr. Dix. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
It is recommendation of the superintendent of the board to approve the food service fund bill listing for January 19th, 2022, in the amount of $26,942.68. I put that in the form of a motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Hammersmith, second by Mr. Kirkwood. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item number 9, board action items, personnel, Mr. Redcliffe.
It is recommendation of the superintendent to the board, absent any objection, to accept upon consent all agenda items listed under personnel. Item A is travel club advisors. B is musical director. I'm not going to read these all. It's sort of defeats the purpose. Item C is leave of absence. Item D, retirement of 6 days. And cafeteria server first position. I put those in a form of motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Redcliffe, second by Mr. Memo. Any discussion on those items?
We got A through E, right?
We still have that A through E.
Because there's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
These ones are road. This is A through E only. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion A through E carries.
Okay.
Item F, steaming food. Streaming food, sorry, steaming food. Stream.
Yeah, the streaming crew, professional development workshops, seminars, additions to the volunteer non-instructional substitute listing for 21-22 school year. Item I is retirements, resignations. Can we break item I out, please?
Yeah,
If it's broke out, then are we gonna have to do it by resignation then, I would imagine?
Well, my feelings, I've already let them know at the work session. Everybody knows that I'm not gonna vote yes for accepting Matt Stebbins' right.
No, that's fine, so I think we need to read it by person.
so we'll have to read each one individually.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, yeah.
So we can
No
do,
problem.
we can do F, G, and H together, take a vote on that, and then
Correct.
do I individually.
Okay, I put F, G, and H in the closed motion.
A second.
Mr. Redfoot, second by Mr. Memo. This is item F, G, and H. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion's carried. Item number I, retirement and resignations.
We'll have to do a roll call for each name.
Yeah, we'll just do it this way.
We could do a separate motion.
A motion for, Nathan Dobbins back,
Here we go.
put that forward motion.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Buttersback, Mr. Redfoot, second by Mr. Memo. Any discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion I, item 1 carries.
Resignation of Steve Skurbetz, lifetime sports advisor, put that in the form of motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Redfoot, second by Mr. Kirkwood. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Resignation of Ann Harris, speech teacher. Put that in the form of motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Redfoot, second by Mr. Kirkwood. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
With regret, aye.
I'm friends.
Yeah.
Make sure she knows that too. And forward with it.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Resignation of Katie O'Malley, elementary instructional personnel care aide. Put that in the form of motion.
Second.
Mr. Redfoot and Ms. Ensko. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
And the resignation of Matthew Stebbins, varsity girls basketball coach. Put that in the form of motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Redfoot, second by Mr. Nemo. Any discussion? Ms. Conrad, can you do a roll call vote?
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Nimmo,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Redfoot,
Yes.
Mr. Dix,
No.
Mrs. Ensko. Yes. Mr. Hammerschmidt,
No.
Mr. Kirkwood.
Yes.
Item number 10, board action items, committee as a whole. Number 1A, Walt Disney World cheerleaders.
Congratulations.
Thank
by the
you.
way.
Yeah, congratulations on the Whitfield.
Thank you very much.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Wadis? I got a question.
Okay, can I say a couple of things?
Sure.
I would love to. So before I talk about, our safety and travel plan or answer any of your questions, I do want to take a minute since I'm here and we just want to be able to kind of brag on our girls a little bit. If you've ever played a sport or been involved in a group, activity, you would probably understand the importance of creating a culture, that I'm gonna crack because I'm so proud of them. A culture that cultivates pride in what they're doing, hard work, dedication, and overcoming obstacles. And that's exactly what these girls have done this year. It's been remarkable to watch them grow as a team. And anytime you are trying to win a championship, the chemistry of the team is so important. And for our girls to go out 2 weeks ago and win a championship by a landslide. I don't know if you guys know, but we beat the second place team by 12 points. And in cheerleading, that's huge. There was a 3-point margin between second and seventh place. And I would like to invite all of you, if you're free, available, and interested, to come to Hershey, because it might just be the first state championship in school history. It's very possible for that to happen with our girls next weekend. If you're unable to come, I would invite you to come to one of our practices this week or next week, and the varsity basketball game on Wednesday night. We're going to perform at halftime. What you see on the sidelines is a fraction of what these girls are capable of, and it's an amazing thing to witness them in coordination and in sync all together on that mat, and the energy is amazing. So I would love for you all to experience that. If you're in the building for anything and we're practicing, you'd probably be able to hear us, but stop down and see what they have to offer. It's pretty remarkable. But if you guys have any questions, there are whole points that I would like to just point out about the travel safety plan, which I believe you all have a copy of. First is that we are at a 3-to-1 chaperone to student ratio, which means that there are 3 girls for every chaperone. Those chaperones at all times during the trip will be assigned a location. When we're at a rest stop, for example, 1 chaperone will stay on the bus, 1 will go supervise the bathrooms, 1 will stand at the checkout, and 1 will stand at the door watching the girls enter and exit. So they're assigned to a specific location. When we're at the hotel, same thing. The girls will be instructed they're not allowed to leave their rooms unless they have a chaperone with them anywhere that they go. Additionally, I'd like to point out the expertise of our coaching staff. Christine Jones, who's a new addition, she actually works for CYS and has an extensive background in training in looking for child endangerment situations. So I feel like she's an asset to our staff. One of our coaches is an athletic training major and a perfusionist. So anything that would come up in terms of medical need while we're there, our coaching staff alone are covered. And we have parents that are coming as well to be chaperones. So I just think those are 2 or 3 important points just to point out that are included in the safety plan that you guys have. But do you guys have any questions for me? I'd be happy to answer that.
I have a couple. I guess the first one is, so you won Whitfield, which I think is phenomenal and awesome. Congratulations. Which got you a berth to Harrisburg. So what did the girls win to get invited to Disney?
We actually had to receive a bid at a competition in order to go. So the way that works is typically we go to Slippery Rock University. We did not go there this year because partly COVID, partly it was a little change in decision making, and we decided to submit a bid virtually. When we did that, our routine, our score was compared to all of the other teams that are submitted nationally, and you have to be within the top 10% of those scores to be even offered to go. So we were able to get that top 10% score and get the offer or the bid to compete at nationals in Illinois.
Okay. Based on the size of our school, how many schools are we competing against?
At nationals, there will be about 50.
Okay. So at Disney, there will be 50?
Yes, there will be 50 at Disney. At states, there will be 15.
Right.
And it's interesting because we are in the 2A large category at states. And it makes sense that there aren't that many teams because schools our size don't often have this many cheerleaders. And so I think it's a testament to our program and our girls' talent that at a school this small, we can field that many athletes with that level of talent to compete at the Whitfield and advance to states.
I think an important thing too, can you tell them, because I didn't know this, other two told me, that regardless of large school, small school, they take 4 AA, right?
No, so,
How do you go top double A schools regardless of size?
so, in the state of Pennsylvania for cheerleading, it's really, it used to be, we don't care how big your school is. It depends on the number of people you have on the map, which is so unfair because you have schools like Pine Richland, Hempfield, Baldwin, who are competing against us. And they finally sidestepped and changed that. So now at Whitfield, it's 2A. 2A is our school size, 2A small, 2A large, and it's the top score out of 2A that advances. So we were the best scoring 2A team in Whitfield, which is fantastic. And it only is broken down in 2A, 3A. So even the largest 2A schools, like Ringgold is a 2A school. Elizabeth Forward is a 2A school. And those are big schools, you know, even compared to us. But in cheerleading, they're 2A. If you would have taken the entire competition at Whitfield's, 3A included, there were 25 total teams. And of those 25 total teams, our girls placed fourth. So even amongst some of these huge powerhouse 3A, we beat Pine Richland, we beat Butler, we beat Seneca Valley. So these schools that have hundreds of girls to choose from, and that amount of talent pool, our girls were able to place fourth out of all 25 teams. Of course, the best team in 2A, which is what we focus on, but I think that is really remarkable of our athletes.
And then the last question I have is really around, I don't know if it's so much a question or an observation. So we got this bid to Disney, and all I see on Facebook is, oh, we're buying our tickets, oh, we're selling tickets. But nobody's even come to the board and said, hey, we got this bid, we want to go, here's our plan. Where band did it, other sports do it, so why did cheerleading not follow the same process?
We did not put that we were going to Disney until we knew we had a bid. It was already approved on the school calendar.
It's approved as an option.
On the school calendar. So we felt like because it was on the school calendar, we were free and clear to be able to do that as an option to go. We were never instructed that we had any restrictions on our travel. And so we felt we were able to fundraise as if we were going.
Okay. Is that the same for every other, did the band do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, generally, it's approved on the same thing on the calendar entire year. It's brought to the board for the $50 per student contribution, but the trip is approved.
Okay. I just thought that was weird, because I'm like, okay, we haven't voted on it at the board. What if the board says, no, parents already bought tickets? Or the girls get their hopes up, and for whatever reason, we can't do it because of COVID, whatever. That to me is a little bit concerning.
And we were under the impression that it was approved.
Even with the regional, I certainly think that being the board's prerogative, the vote should be desired. So, you know, perhaps it would be optimal to suggest that the calendar is a suggestion.
Okay. I'll stay at it for you. I think that's it. I hope the girls have fun.
And I hope that they do well and represent Laurel. I tell them, we're not going down there to go to the beat, we're going down there to compete. And that is what I want their mentality to be. So this is more a competition than it is a trip. It's just the location happens to be in Orlando. So,
Anybody else have questions? Best of luck.
thank you.
No additional questions? Then I will say, to approve Ms. Wardisky, Ms. Hunt, volunteer coaches, chaperones, and cheerleaders to compete in Orlando, Florida at Tour of Walt Disney World for February 9th to the 14th, 2022. The cost of the district will be $50 per student, as in prior years. Motion by Mr. Kirkwood. Second by Mr. Redfoot. Any discussions further? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No,
Ms. Conrad, can you please do a roll call vote? Okay. That okay, Matt?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
As long as we got it, it was.
So it's 7-1. Okay. So 7-1, motion carries. Let's see. Item B, I'm trying to figure out if I can do it, but I guess not. Item B, committee of the whole, recognize the attached agreement with the Midwestern Intermediate Unit number 4 for implementation of IDEA for the 21-22 school year. Can I have a motion? So moved. Motion by Mr. Kirkwood, second by Mr. Radcliffe. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstention. Motion carried. Item C. Put the attached agreement with Nutrition Incorporated for nutritional, digital ordering subscription effective February 1st, 2022 for the 2-year period at a cost of $165.24 per year. So moved. Second by Mr. Kirkwood, second by Jeff, is that you?
No.
All body. Motion by Mr. Dix. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention. Motion carries. Approve a field trip to Highmark Sports Works at the Carnegie Science Center on February 9th, 2022 for the Varsity Elk Club at a cost of the district for transportation only. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Ms. Esco, second by Mr. Kirkwood. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention. Motion carries. They keep repeating it, sorry. Recognize the attendance of the varsity wrestling program to the Powerade Wrestling Tournament on December 29th through 30th, 2021, with the cost of the district of $408.09 for accommodations. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kirkwood, second by Mr. Dix. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Okay, I'm going to leave it this way. As a recommendation of superintendent of the board, absent any objections, to accept upon consent the following agenda items, item F through item J. F through J,
There's a K there too.
is there a K?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is, F through K.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Demo, second by Mr. Parker. Any discussions on those action items? All in favor? Opposed? Abstention. Motion carries. For item F through K. Item number 11, new business. Item 12, any comments, questions from the floor relative to non-agenda items? Kevin, I know you've been quiet all night. You want to say something?
Good. He came for the course list.
All right. Yes.
I do have one thing I did want to bring up. A couple weeks ago, I started talking to a guy, Dan Bailey. He works with Vision Ministries. They give them presentations on the dangers of fentanyl. And I was surprised. I didn't realize there was 57 deaths last year from fentanyl. That's about one a week. And I got a text from him today. There was another one. And he's offered, and I don't know how we would put this into our schedule. I'm just throwing this out here so we have time. I would like to see this program put on, because I know from talking to a lot of these young kids, they do not realize this is mixed into all kinds of drugs. It doesn't take much to kill you. You don't get a second chance. So it's something that I would really like to see us maybe figure out a way to address.
we've had Dan in before, prior to COVID, he brought an individual who went through drug rehab and different things, so just have him reach out to me and we'll get him back in.
Okay.
Another thing too, we can use him for professional service on the trauma informed approach education, so I think we can fit in multiple ways.
It was a couple of years ago, I think.
It was prior to COVID. Him and, Mr. do a real nice presentation.
I know when I talk to some of my grandson's friends, I mean, they roll their eyes like, oh, you old man. But I mean, it's a scary thing when you see the small amount that it takes to.
Is there a way he could do something for the, parents?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I think they need educated
Yeah.
as well as signs, whatever. I don't know what the guy does, but.
Yeah.
If we could do an auditorium, I don't know, at some point.
It generally, prior to COVID, we tried to do some different things, but I don't have a problem doing that, getting people in that. And we talked a lot about human trafficking in the past being one of the things we really wanted to touch on with our families. Because of our area of where we're at, Bella Highlands, it's pretty big, so, I don't have a problem with bringing to talk.
I think
Have to reach out to me and.
you saved one kid, you did a good job.
Now, I have some numbers. I know we need to trust the science. So these are numbers though. So what do I know? They're just numbers. So it's awesome that Mr. Redfoot's bringing up fentanyl because in the age bracket that we're talking about, and even a little bit older, ages 18 to 45, fentanyl's killing a lot more people than COVID. So you want to look at how we're all hands on deck. COVID, and we're letting these drugs in the back door and just killing our kids. This is negligence. So I saw that and I just looked it up. And yeah, it says here between 2020 and 2021, 80,000 people between 18 and 45 OD'd and died. So it's nuts. So that's more than COVID. No, it was under the legal limit for self-administered fentanyl.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had.
Well, thanks, Tom.
Truthful.
All right, well, if that's it, then I will move to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Dig it in.
Motion by Mr. Redfoot, second by
Me.
Mr. Demo, all in favor?
We just done that now.